Well, the most important tip would be to eat as many natural foods as possible. So, eat as many whole foods as you can.
Okay.
But I also don't want people to suddenly start worrying or feeling guilty for not,
Hmm.
because sometimes we have to use those processed foods out of convenience. We're busy,
Yeah.
what's available to us. So I think the more whole foods that you can bring into your day, the better.
Yeah.
Um, and then also, another top tip is to get your fruit and vegetables for the day. It's not always easy to get your 5 a day that's now 10 a day or however many. So my top tip for that would be to have something on every meal. So if it's breakfast, you can stir in some spinach, into some eggs, or you can have some fruit with what you're having. Lunch, that you can have some salad or some crudités or something like that. And in your evening meal, you can have a few side portions of vegetables, or there's variety.
Yeah.
Have some greens, have some starchy, orange squash or something like that.
Mm.
Not orange squash, but you know what I mean, butternut squash. So having some vegetables or fruit with every meal is a really good way of sort of getting your 5 a day, or however many. Because if we wait till half the day is gone, then it's really difficult to sort of get it all in. So yeah, I think just trying to think about I'm thinking about the most whole foods, so unprocessed foods is the way to go, really.
Oh, yeah, that's a really fair way to make it easy for you to start building things in. When I used to work with a PT, her advice to me was to have in every meal a palm-sized amount of protein, a cupped amount of carbs, and unlimited fruit and veg, whatever you wanted to have, unlimited, and a thumbful of fat.
Yeah, that's
And,
perfect.
and actually,
Yeah.
I've taken that to heart. Even now, 5 years later, I don't see her anymore on that level. But I still think now, actually, have I got enough variation in this?
Yeah.
Like I'm actually making a difference, and thinking about that for my kids as well, just to make sure I've got enough of a variation on their plate. Sometimes I don't crack it, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it is fish fingers, chips and beans.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just coping. That's just, that's
Yeah.
how it will be. But
That's
I'd say,
life.
I can make an effort other days as well. But
Yeah, that's perfect what you just said, because it's really manageable as well. Like if you
yeah,
think about things in terms of handfuls, it's much more realistic than thinking about grams and
yeah,
percentages.
no weighing stuff. That's a
Yeah,
problem, to weigh stuff out, and everyone's got a
definitely.
different size palm. So if you're smaller, if you're a man or a woman,
Yeah,
the palm size will be
yeah,
different.
the palm will fit. I agree, and I always say to people, as a blueprint of what you eat every day, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or your evening meal, it's like have some fat and some protein,
Yeah,
and some fruit or vegetables of some sort. So those three fundamentals, fat, protein, and some fruits or vegetables. And then because people often neglect the fat and protein part. People very rarely forego the carbs part, and don't need to be reminded of that. But
definitely.
yeah, it's good to have those sorts of tricks to remind yourself about how to sort of build that the balance.
That really stuck with me. So okay, that's
Mm.
good to know that I need to get good advice anyway, because she's
Yeah.
her name is Maria, if she's watching. Give her some advice, you always do.
Well done, Maria.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing. So okay, that's really good to know. Okay, I've got one more question. Okay, and then we're gonna start wrapping things on. I know you've got things to do as well. Right, veganism has been a
Mhm.
big movement recently.
Yeah.
Okay, in the last few years, is it really the way forward? And is it something that we should all be thinking about in terms of reducing our meat consumption, for example? What are your thoughts from a professional point of view on something like this? Because I find that people who are vegan, the whole world knows they're vegan. Um,
Yes, that's true. I think it's quite a controversial subject because people are very passionate about it.
yeah,
I think if you're vegan, you tend to embrace the whole culture of it, not just about what you're eating, but things that you're using in everyday life as
yeah,
well.
being more conscious about using the leather goods.
Yeah, I think there's different things to consider. I think that if you choose to be vegan because of the animal aspect, then that's great, and that's a separate thing.
Yes.
I think if you choose to, what I tend to talk about is if you're vegan for your health or if you're vegan for the environment, there's myth busting to do there.
Okay.
So for the environment, it's actually not necessarily, it's unsustainable, and it's not the way forward for the environment. I think we all know that we can't be eating like beef 3 times a day every day. We can't go crazy on on things like that. But if we didn't have any animals, we wouldn't be able to use the whole of the universe properly. We won't be able to, some parts of the world, you can't actually grow crops. You need animals for grazing. And, you know, likewise, you know, you'd have to do some more deforestation to produce areas to grow crops. You have to spray crops with fertilizer. Impossible to not wipe out wildlife in the process. So I won't talk too much about that. But so in terms of sustainability, I don't think it is a sustainable way. I think we can continue to be omnivorous about going forward. But in terms of health, I think there's still much that we don't know about whether this is the way forward. I think people look towards where we've come from and think that we didn't evolve to be vegan. But I do think some people do find that they become vegan and they feel so much better, and other people might become vegan and feel terrible. So I think there can be genetics at play. So I think that it's a really individual thing. I personally feel that I encourage a kind of mixed diet with meat, fish, seafood. But I do think we could all do with eating more plant foods. And I think that in terms of meat and whether it's healthy, the studies are very mixed. So there's associations between eating a lot of meat and being having disease, for example. But association doesn't always mean cause. It can be wider factors that are influencing the health there, and also the way that you cook something can make it damaging. So if you eat a lot of char grilled food, that causes a lot of sort of free radicals and things in the body, compared to if you were like steaming something or cooking it more slowly and gently. So those are factors that are important. But I think that a lot of people do eat too much meat. I think, you know, eating it 3 times a day every day would be considered too much. But at the moment, there's no real agreement in the literature as in how much plant-based food should we eat and how much animal food should we eat, and what is the healthy amount. So I think it's very individual. If you do follow a really strictly vegan diet, you do need to supplement with certain nutrients. Most people know about B12, but there are also lots of other little nutrients that might be low in a vegan diet, like iodine, zinc, iron, and so on. So there might be those things to support. But no, I think that it's not a diet that I don't promote any kind of diet particularly, but I think, yes, let's eat lots more vegetables. But what I don't like to see is when people suddenly switch to like processed vegan foods because they think it's healthier than eating meat. So they might say, oh, I'm really healthy because I'm eating like a vegan burger and I'm eating a vegan sausages and I'm eating all this, but actually those foods are processed foods and they're usually made of refined soya, or they're refined wheat products, or, you know, they're not usually made of actual nutritious foods. So I think if you are eating whole food plants, plant-based diet, that's obviously much more nourishing than you can be a vegan and eat junk food, just like you can be an omnivore and eat junk food. So I'm probably going off on a few tangents, but in a nutshell, I think, you know, I think that we're steering towards eating more predominantly plants in the diet, but the evidence isn't quite decided yet as to whether we should not eat meat. I think it's still undecided, and I would definitely not recommend, personally, I wouldn't recommend a vegan diet for children. But who knows what research will be, you know, there might be some more research, you know, in the next few years, and we might know some more.
That's been really interesting, Kate. I've loved this conversation.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
So much, and you are seriously the bomb at this. How can people find you? How can they find you?
People can find me. I've got a website which is katedimmer.com. I'm on social media at Kate Dimmer Nutrition. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I am on other things, but I don't really keep up with those. So yeah, find me there. And I'm always sharing sort of blogs and tips and things, which I love doing. So
if people want to book in a session with you, they can book a session with you, and it can be virtual like this. And got any questions about?
Yeah, I'm working either online or on the phone. So yeah, things have kind of stayed pretty similar in that respect. So but if people want to find me on my website, then they can either give me a ring and chat to me about how I work to see if that's for them, or email me.
Okay.
And
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks ever so much for having me, Harps.
It's been